Stig, it's been a while, maybe a week or so since we last had a catch up, but you've been away, haven't you?
Yes, I've had a few days away on the Welsh coast with the family. I went straight to the Welsh coast after the game on Saturday, and then did Tamworth and back on Monday with my son, who was particularly miserable on the way home back to the Welsh coast. Unsurprisingly, it was a fairly lengthy journey after the game, but I think probably everybody felt their journeys were long after Monday's game, because it was obviously a disappointing day. There's no hiding away from that. As Paul has said, it was a disappointing performance. But yeah, tomorrow's another day. We're talking just ahead of the game, aren't we, against Southport? But yeah. No, I had a nice few days away. You probably had some peace and quiet, so I hope you've enjoyed that. But I'm back now, mate.
Yeah, back. Yeah, I did enjoy the peace and quiet, but obviously the weekend wasn't great football wise. But I think you came out on, was it Tuesday? You put your tweet out, kind of saying, there's been such a turnaround during the close season and everything that we're never going to kind of be winning every game right from day one.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways you could say the fact that we had a pretty decent pre-season has actually raised expectation probably to a level that's unrealistic. Given we've got 19 new players out of a squad of 20, or we certainly had 19 new players out of a squad of 20. I was talking to Paul. I think they've had 28 hours of training sessions so far, and yeah, and there's no getting away from it. Monday particularly was disappointing, but I did think afterwards actually Tamworth are a team that they've got a pretty solid, settled squad who enjoyed success last year and come up. So it was always going to be a tough encounter. Clearly, we'd like to have been closer to them on the day that we were, but I do think we've got to be realistic a little bit about where we are. This squad of players, we've said before, there aren't that many of them who's played at this level before. It's going to take some time for them to adjust as individuals. It's going to take them time to, gel as a team. And I just think as supporters, we need to be a little bit patient and just give the players a little bit of time, and give Paul a little bit of time and his management team, because it's all new to him as well. And everybody knows that even if you've got shed loads of experience, this is a really, really tough league. We're all aware of that. And I kind of just worry that people have gone from being really chuffed as nuts after 7 points from the first 3 games to kind of DEFCON 10 in terms of panic and misery after 6 games. We've got 7 points from the first 6 games. Someone did tell me that's exactly what we got in our first season after we reformed in the middle of Football League. And I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to have the same sort of season, but it does kind of give you a sense of realism about where we are. Clearly, we want to see progress, and we want to see things moving forward, and we want to see positivity. But equally, we've been without key players for quite a lot of the games as well. We've had suspensions. Obviously, we've had 2 strikers injured. Yeah, I think a lot's gone against us, to be fair. And I would just say to supporters, have a little bit of patience. The support was brilliant on Monday again, up until the frustration really got the better of people towards the end. And, we're all football fans, we all get emotional. But I would say let's just have a little bit of patience. Let's have a bit of perspective about where we are. There are teams that are better off than us. There are teams that are worse off than us. But we are, it is going to take time to settle down. And I think the players deserve to be given time. Paul's obviously reacted to Monday, and it's always sad to see a couple of players move on, and sort of Dinnan and Stanley have moved on, and we've announced Paul Downing yesterday, which is quite an interesting and exciting signing. And hopefully Paul's hopeful of another body in through the doors ahead of tomorrow's game. So yeah, I just think it is difficult, because we're all so invested and we all get so emotional about it and stuff. But I do think people have got to be a little bit patient and a little bit more realistic at times, and just accept where we are. It's going to take some time for this to everybody to bed in and things to settle down. And I think judgments can be cast a little bit more when we've got full squad available and that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, I was proper sulky on Monday. I don't like to lose at the best of times, but I did think at full time, when credit to the players, they came over to the fans, and I know a couple of players, Nathan Cameron and Pondy, were talking to some of the fans, and I think that kind of helped. It did smooth the kind of the feeling a bit, and I think Nathan Cameron was kind of just apologising for the performance. None of the players are putting a performance like that on purpose, so it's back to the drawing board. And as you say, Paul's kind of already worked hard this week to make some changes, and hopefully we can get back to winning ways tomorrow.
Yeah, and you know, the players, you know, as you say, at full time, the players were very respectful. Paul made sure they went over. Paul himself went over to go and acknowledge the support, because we'd have brilliant travelling support, and the noise was fantastic. Um, you know, and it was one of those days. I think everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, didn't it? With Kyle going off injured, I think the only thing that went our way probably was the offside goal. But you know, there were lots of other things that didn't go our way. And it was always going to be a difficult day. I think Tamworth were going to be fired up for it, but you know, there's no getting away from the fact that this performance was disappointing. But you know, these things do happen. Lots of better teams than us have got a battering on a bank holiday Monday, and that will happen again to other teams in the future. So I think we've got to move forward, look ahead, you know, throw our support behind the players as best we can, and actually, when they are struggling or when things aren't going well, that's when they need the support even more. It was like last Saturday against Peterborough Sports. The first half wasn't great, but I thought in the second half we completely controlled the game without ever really troubling their goalkeeper and threatening in the final third. And I just thought maybe, you know, we could have made a bit more noise going into the last 10 minutes as supporters and got right behind the team to try and get them over the line to get an equaliser. So I would say, you know, the support the players get is generally fantastic. But actually, when things aren't going great and when they look like they're having a struggle or the opposition are having a good spell, let's try and get right behind the players and really try and help them out. And you know, we're there to support. That's the very definition of what we are, aren't we? So come on, let's try and do that if we can.
And I think certainly at home, I think Paul has mentioned about trying to make Edgar Street a bit of a fortress, and the crowd are a massive part of that, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. We didn't play great against Rushall, but again, Rushall were a team that have come up promoted, got a pretty settled squad with a few additions. So it was always going to be a tough, it's going to be a tough game. And I think, if we can make Edgar Street a fortress, it would be brilliant. It can be difficult because players rock up there and look around blooming Ben Bowen and his immaculate surface probably gives everybody a real boost, doesn't it? And the stadium looks fantastic at the moment. So players do come there and probably, really revel in it. But I do think we can, let's get right behind the players again tomorrow, and let's try and help the lads and get that win we need to kick on again tomorrow.
Yeah, massively. On Tuesday, so kind of the day after Tamworth, it was the photo call and the sponsors kind of evening where obviously all the player sponsors, the shirt sponsors, and a lot of the other kind of commercial clients here came. They had the team photo and the head and shoulder photos with the players. But it was a fantastic evening. I know you couldn't make it because obviously you were away, but I think the credit to the players, because after the 4-0 defeat the day before, they could have just hidden and kind of had the photo and shot off. But they took their time to kind of stay afterwards and talk to the sponsors, and as well, credit to the fans and the sponsors who were here, that it was quite a positive night, which, taking into account that the result the day before was maybe surprising, but credit to the players and to Paul himself as well. That it was a really kind of positive evening.
Yeah, to be honest, that doesn't surprise me that the players were so good on Tuesday night, because from my dealings with them so far, they're a really good group of lads. They'll be hurting as much as any of us after Monday night. As we've all seen the commitment levels that they've thrown into the matches throughout pre-season and the start of the season. So I've no doubt they were probably more gutted than the rest of us about Monday. But it doesn't surprise me that they've represented themselves well on Tuesday night and represented the club well. I didn't deliberately stay away because I wanted to avoid having my photo taken, although I really don't ever want to have my photo taken. But yeah, I couldn't get back to that, so I did send my apologies because I was away for a few days with the family. But yeah, it sounds like it's a really positive evening, and they're really important, because the money that we get from player sponsors and any sponsors, it's vital to the club. So the evenings like that, to put an evening like that on, and I think you enjoyed the buffet, Jamie Griffiths, from what I've heard rumours about that. So, and for the players to be able to mix and mingle with the sponsors and supporters is really, really good. So I'm chuffed that was a really good night, and I'm glad there was no real hangover from the result on Monday, and everybody was able to relax and enjoy themselves. And and hopefully that's shown those supporters and those sponsors that were there that we have got a really genuine group of lads and a genuine group of players who I think do want to do their very best for our football club.
Yeah, definitely. I know Paul. I think Paul was going to go through the Tamworth game with the players at training last night on Thursday. So, but I'm sure once he's done that, the focus will be very much about Saturday and putting things right and trying to go into tomorrow with a positive mind.
Yeah, absolutely right. Typical of our luck at the moment that Southport appoint a new manager just ahead of our game, isn't it, in fairness? So, yeah, hopefully we won't be any new manager banks or anything like that. But it's going to be a difficult game. I think they've got 1 point so far. So they're going to be fired up to try and get something out of the game tomorrow. And we've just got to approach it in the right way. And those of us that can't influence the actual football on the field can probably just keep our fingers crossed and shout as loudly as we can. And hopefully we'll get the result that we want.
Talking about the field, there's some news on the pitch. So Ben Bowen, who obviously has been groundsman since day one here and does an absolutely fantastic job, is moving away from High Ground Maintenance, who have kind of been the company that we've dealt with since day one. You know, and we've had a fantastic relationship with High Ground and Ben. Before anyone worries too much, what's going to happen with that pitch? Ben is actually staying on because he's going on his own. As his own kind of business, so we're sticking with Ben. But I just want to, before talking about Ben, just thank High Ground and Mike at High Ground, because they have really supported us over the years, and they're going to continue to support us and Ben moving forward as well. But I know Ben's last day is today with High Ground, and he'll be putting something out this afternoon. So, you know, I think it's important to say thank you to High Ground as well, but we're looking forward that we've managed to retain Ben.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a really good arrangement, actually. As you say, High Ground have been fantastic over the 7-8 years that we've dealt with them in terms of Hereford FC, and obviously we've always had Ben as their employee looking after our pitch, and we're very lucky to have Ben. And you know, Ben's decided the time is right for him to try and go on his own, and I think him and Mike have had a conversation about what happens with Edgar Street, and I think they've come to an agreement that actually Ben is probably the best person to continue to look after the ground, which is brilliant from Mike. It's great for Ben, but it shows the kind of type of bloke that Mike is, and you know, the relationship that we've all had in relation to the pitch here at Edgar Street. So yeah, you know, hopefully nothing will change in terms of the pitch itself, in terms of we've still got Ben looking after it. But as you say, you know, it's exciting time for Ben, but it's really important we say thanks to High Ground for all their work and help over the years, because I'm absolutely certain we've got pretty good value for the work that we've had done over the pitch over the years, you know, even way beyond pretty good value. So yeah, thanks to Mike, and I'm sure we won't be strangers and everything, and all the best to Ben in his new job, and I look forward to meeting him tomorrow, and he'll be as grumpy as ever, I'm sure.
I think he's promised he's actually going to be clean tomorrow, in clean clothes maybe, so we'll see.
He'll be in clean. He'll be in a clean West Ham top, will he? That's what he normally rocks,
yeah.
Isn't it? In fairness,
probably
West Ham top and Hereford FC shorts is his normal. He's a bit of a crossbreed, isn't he? Bless him.
Crossbreed, definitely, yeah.
He loves free kit, and he's a proper kit. He loves kit.
He was wearing the Hull City beanie up until a few maybe last season, where he obviously got bought a West Ham one for Christmas, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Some other changes as well. We've had a long, hard kind of think about the office opening hours, and with effect from Monday, we're going to kind of shake those up and change them a little bit. So. But hopefully at the end of it, it'll allow office staff to kind of focus on their jobs, and then when we are open to the public, it'll allow those staff to focus 100% on kind of dealing with the fans to the best of the high standards that we all expect. So we're going to open on a Tuesday and a Friday every week, 10 till 4. So previously it was a Wednesday and a Friday. We're moving it to a Tuesday simply because of the home games being on a Tuesday. And then on a Monday, Wednesday and Thursday, the office will be closed to the general public, although the staff will still be in working behind the scenes. But yeah, there was a lot of thought that went behind that decision, wasn't there?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. You know, it's 7 years since I worked at the club full time in terms of actually in a paid position. And I don't think unless you're there on a day-to-day basis, you can have any real understanding of quite how busy it is in terms of the amount of calls you have to field and people just popping in. And it does, you know, it's fantastic that there's the level of interest there are. But if you're trying to get stuff done, you know, vital stuff ahead of a match day, or, you know, anything really that's part of the specific role that you have, it can be very difficult because interruptions, it might only be a 10-minute thing that you get interrupted to do, but you probably lose half an hour each time because of you know, either side of that. So I think we've just had a conversation. We don't have a huge number of staff based at the club on a day-to-day basis in terms of the office staff and the admin staff, and actually, to be fair, to be fair to yourself and the others in the staff, I think we've got to give you the time to be doing the jobs that you're fully paid to do. And actually, if we're then expecting you to go and sell something in the shop or answer queries at front desks, on 3, 4 days, 5 days a week, it's not fair on you actually, and you're not going to provide the best service that you can. So we discussed it a lot at board level, and you were involved in the discussions, and we decided to go down the route of just literally opening to the public on a Tuesday and a Friday, and the other 3 days, Monday, Wednesday and Thursday, the office will be closed to the public, because again, that just gives people time to take the work. At the end, people work on Saturdays as well. Every other Saturday is probably a home game. Toby and Nick especially have specific roles at away games that they undertake, so they need to be able to have a day off in lieu during the week as well, and this gives them the scope to do that and make sure that we're not and they're not overworking and all that sort of stuff. So it's not been a straightforward decision, and I'm sure there will be grumbles, because people want to be able to call in at the club the day they're in Hereford, whichever day that is. But I think for the benefit of the whole club, the overall business, and importantly staff and staff welfare, I think moving to Tuesdays and Fridays is the right thing to do for now. We'll see how it goes. We can still we can extend the opening hours when we get towards Christmas, and around any bigger games that we have, we can still be flexible about that. But on a normal run of the mill week, business as usual now is going to be Tuesday and Friday, and I think there's just a more player announcement to go out hopefully very shortly, which will just explain that to the wider fan base. So I would say to fans, just please support us with that, because it is important, and we do think it will have a huge benefit in terms of what we can do as a club.
Yeah, and it allows us, during those times that we are open to the general public, it allows us to really focus on that and make sure that kind of we can our service during those times can be as high a standard as we expect.
Yeah, no, and as I said, it's easy to be on the outside and go, why isn't it open? Why is it not doing this? Why? But actually, unless you work in that office, or you've worked in that office, you really cannot get an understanding of the levels of interest and the queries that have to be dealt with and all that sort of stuff. And as I say, someone innocently coming to the front desk, knocking on the door and wanting to look at the pitch, it's very, on a day that the club is actually open, it's very difficult to say no, and it does take time, because then people want to have a conversation, and it's lovely and it's great, and it's not something that's a negative, but it does have an impact on the amount of work that can be done. So that's what we're looking at, and I say, hopefully it will work, it might not, and we have to reassess further down the line. But I think we've got to try these things, and we've got to try and be flexible about the way we work.
We've also changed up slightly the away travel this season. So Joni Roberts has taken on the responsibility for running the away travel to away games, and I think early doors it's gone. I know it's Tamworth was the first game, but they've already got bookings for Chester and even Gloucester, I think, as well. So it's slightly changed how you book. You go online and book still, but Joni's put a lot of hard work into try and making sure that there's a good level of service there for fans for away games.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've obviously, I think it's very important that it's something that we do, and something that we need to commit to, and people can rely on us to do it across the games that we announce we're going to do it on. There's just, I think it's just a one-off cost wherever you're traveling. So some games it might seem more expensive than it should be, but then other games that it'll be much cheaper. It'll work out much cheaper. But it was just an easy way of doing it for Joni, and it rewards people who commit to traveling on the supporters bus through the club more often. So yeah, I'm really grateful to Joni for taking that on, because it's not an easy task, not a straightforward task. And what I would say to supporters, old and young, actually that's going to be a really good service, really safe service. It's actually getting there in plenty of time ahead of the games now for people to get food and that sort of stuff, and it's an important service that we need to provide. So if people can support it, we would ask them to support it, and then we can ensure it's in place for season after season then. And
bookings are now being taken for the Chester game on Tuesday. So if you haven't booked yet and you want to go, you can go on the official website or the social media channels and get the links through to that and book your place.
Yeah, and you should be able to book more games in advance. We had to sort of work a few things through, so we were only able to start it for the Tamworth game, but now it should be there appearing for all the games that are available, should be in advance on the website to look at. So yeah, Chester at the moment, isn't it? And then moving on from there.
Brilliant. I think that's it from me, unless I've forgotten anything. But you're normally pretty good at bringing up a point
No,
or two.
I've not forgotten anything. I just want to, so we're committed to trying to communicate better, are we? I mean, we've had a little bit of a poor run over the last week or so, but we aren't going silent. We aren't going to go silent deliberately. We'll Saints and Greaves, the Ant and Deck, or Little and Large, or whatever you want to call us. We'll continue to try and be as communicative as possible, and then try and do it, because we don't want to hold ourselves up in a bunker just because elements aren't going well. We've got to keep on talking.
No, certainly. I was stood in the terrace on Monday for the Tamworth game, and to be fair, I think people that I spoke to, they're disappointed about the performance and the result, but generally they're still kind of keen and very supportive, and want everyone wants us to do well, don't they? So we're still all very much pushing in the same direction, and if our communication can kind of help to do that, then we'll keep doing it, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. I think we are moving in the right direction as a club. Sadly, football is the most annoying sport ever, isn't it? And it's very, and it is outrageous that all our opponents will rock up trying to win the game just as much as we want to win the game. That's so selfish, and would be a lot easier if they just rocked up and rolled over for us. But so we've got to be realistic, on any given day, anyone can probably beat anyone, but I think it's our role as supporters to try and get behind the team as much as we possibly can. 40 years, man and boy, I've suffered Edgar Street, and I've certainly seen more downs than ups. So I suspect the future isn't going to be any different for the next 40 years. But I think we've all got to try and get behind the lads. Remember, it's supposed to be fun, which isn't always easy. Imagine we do it to enjoy ourselves as a release. But yeah, no, thanks again for all the support so far. The support at home has been fantastic. Hopefully we'll get a decent gate tomorrow. The away support on Monday was, Tamworth was outstanding, wasn't it? 500 plus again. And I understand the frustrations. I get it. I'm a fan. I know you get it as well, Jay, because you're a supporter. But stick with us, stick with the lads, and hopefully we'll move in the right direction.
Brilliant. Right. Well, I'll see you tomorrow at the game. Hopefully we'll be able to celebrate with a pint after picking up all 3 points.
That'll be very nice to think.